man. In my opinion, I think like I don't get where we got like the Muslim world got into banning things. If something is forbidden, if it's prohibited, that means it should be accessible, but you have to exhibit self-control and not partake in it. So when you ban it, you're actually skirting the original intention of like the examination.
Yeah, there needs to be the temptation there so that you can actually practice restraint. And in the practice of restraint is the hasanat. It's in the good deeds. The good deeds in actually trying to avoid it, not actually just avoiding it. Like by it not being there.
Where it's not just available. Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like
there's something that you actually do.
Literally. And so like, and I was arguing with a guy, I was saying my opinion is everywhere by law in Islamic Muslim countries, by law, you should have where you have a mosque, you should have a bar right next to it, and vice versa. Where you have a bar, you have a mosque right next to it.
What about a brothel? If you have the bar, you might as well have the brothel.
Well, I'm from that, like, I'm very Canadian in my, like, outlook on life. Like, yes, everything should be accessible, and it's up to you as a believer or as
you choose where you're going in
to fight the temptation, as opposed to them deciding it's just not available. So we were talking about this concept and, like, banning versus forbidden versus prohibited. And a dude was like, and I dropped up like, yo, by the way, like even like Saudi Arabia has bars now. And he's like, no way in hell. I know for a fact there's not a single bar. If there is alcohol there, it's in the embassies. And I'm like, bro, I have a friend, like he's like literally like local Saudi. He sent me like a YouTube clip about, and I showed on YouTube, you can type Twilight Bar in Jeddah. And like it's there is a bar in Jeddah and it says halal bar. Like I don't know why they keep on YouTube, it says halal bar. And so that's why I had name dropped you and like slapped him down that, yo, like I'm the expert in this region, don't like stop.
You'll get the best halal whiskey in your life ever at this bar.
Well, and everybody, it's interesting. It's interesting in Saudi because like a lot of the restaurants that are like, especially the higher end restaurants, are built with bars, like with like the physical structure of a bar in the similar to how when they built the cinema, when they built the malls, before there were cinemas, they built them with a cinema in mind so that the cinema would be there once they allowed cinemas. And so the high-end bars do the same thing. So they'll have like these, like the bar there. And like, you know, there's definitely like high-priced mocktails that work their way. Like here's a, you know, $1,000 orange juice. So there's a lot of that.
But it's not any regular orange juice. It's got special things in it.
I mean, like, let's not, like, these are touchy subjects because you know how your friend reacted so angrily to the idea of there being a bar in Saudi. That is interesting because you don't react angrily to the idea of a bar being in Egypt. You don't like react angrily about a bar in Lebanon, but you get very angry like if there's a bar in Saudi Arabia.
Well, like in the Pakistani context, it's even kind of weirder because there were bars until the 70s or so in Pakistan. There were like in the hotels in here, there were bars. So it was part of your culture. And there is a brewery, Murray Brewery, which makes beer and gin. And that was started by the British and it's continued onwards. But it is really interesting, the reaction, the like visceral, angry reaction of like just the debate or just like we're sitting at a coffee shop talking.
It's like,
nothing's going to change, right?
Like but they become upset. They become upset at the idea of it being there. Like, like what's it to you?
The other thing is, by the way, I come from like Dubai. I grew up in Dubai and we had bars and hotels there from like the beginning. It wasn't a big deal. Like, which is why I started thinking about like, why do we ban things versus why don't we have them? And you have to be a good, faithful person to whatever your belief system is.
Because I have a question.
In Dubai, go ahead.
I have a question. The question being, right. So for a long time, bars were only in hotels in Dubai. Has that changed now? Are there like standalone bars, or they're all
No.
still in hotels or a restaurant in a hotel? Is it like a restaurant in a hotel, or just like the hotel lounge?
So the rules might have changed because things change in Dubai very quickly. But the last I heard, there's no standalone bars. It has to be in a hotel or a restaurant in a hotel, and the hotel itself has to be 4 stars or higher.
Okay.
Yeah, it's no 3-star or low
It's,
can have.
it's not every hotel.
Right, because if it's a 3-star or lower, then it's going to be all the riffraff. You don't want the riffraff getting access to alcohol.
Yeah, literally that's sort of like the reasoning.
So then how would someone buy alcohol for their home?
You have like African
Outlets.
and Eastern and
There's outlets.
MMI. Like in Bahrain, same thing in Bahrain. You get the card, expat card, and then you go
okay.
to the like liquor shop.
The hotel has like a liquor shop. Like it has a drive-through.
A couple options. Yeah. And I'm sure like post-corona, there's probably some kind of like underground delivery system if you know the right people and whatnot.
Yeah.
Muhammad, he delivers for the neighborhood.
Literally. Yeah. Sorry, man. Don't worry.
The prohibition versus like by making it available, it's easier to control it. It's the logic for like legalizing all the drugs, right? So like in like Portugal, right? Like crime is like very low because you can get like, you know, heroin at a government like dispensary.
and addiction rates, because a part of their process when they decriminalized all drugs, they also put an emphasis on rehab programs.
Yeah. So you can do something about it.
They provided a service for people to be able to actually kick it if they want.
Yeah.
It's also a boost to your economy. Like you can't be talking about, yo, we're broke, we don't know what to do as a country, we don't have industries, and be banning things. Then like you need every chance you can.
You need every
export
like,
only,
even if it's heroin. Like Afghanistan styles.
Countries have been built. Empires have been built on this. And by the way, it's not just Afghanistan and countries. Private institutions, we often forget how much the banking sector, HSBC namely, has sort of promoted or helped the drug use and the like drug economy in general. There's a lot of articles about like corrupt banking practices.
I mean, all that money, where's it gonna go, right? Everybody needs like services, and I think like anyone that doesn't see that, or like, you know, you got to get your head out of the sand, right? Like people, even if it's for you, I think for some people it's like the shock, like there's like I can't believe it. But you know, I like a little bit of experience. Like the world is filled with temptations and things, and there's a lot of reasons. People don't need a reason to try to find escapes from the shit that is their life. So for many people, that's the case, and I think that's kind of will, you know, your addictions, whether it be like smoking, like tobacco, or it be like shooting heroin. They're all, I mean, I think what they find is that a lot of them are like escapes from something. So like I'm trying to escape from something that's in my life, and so and I do this, and then I develop these bad habits, and then I want to like kick it. Like obviously I get addicted now, and then changes. An addiction kind of changes your brain. It changes like how you do things, and then when you try to, and depending on the drug, like it'll mess you up in different ways because of the chronic use. And then kicking it, like you need support. And so instead of thinking of these types of addictions as like without any mercy in your heart, right? You know, like for the humanity of people, right? Like that people go through things, and there are tough times in life, and there's like high times, and then like that stuff happens. The I guess the legacy of the war on drugs is like that. It is just that, like war, like these people don't deserve to live, and it's destruction time. right? And that type of like ideology, like I'm done with that. Like I think more and more people are moving away from that type of thing, and I hope to see progressive countries, put their money where their mouth is, and be like Saudi. I'm under no illusion for Saudi to do such things, because it's like, I mean, there in parts that are there, it's progressive, but there are a lot of social, like there's a lot there. But I feel like, in Canada and in the States, it's actually quite a conservative place. With
Sweden, Norway, the like
Yeah.
magical,
Yeah,
magical
they're just,
European countries where there is nothing wrong with them. Like,
yeah.
yeah. New Zealand.
Yeah, like you use a helping hand, right? Like, and then and actually deal with the problem, like deal with it, and not because when you
Judge
make
it.
something
Yep.
illegal, all you do is pretend that. I feel like you pretend that, then you pretend the problem's not there, then you have to police the problem, and then you're like, why you just go back? Like it's more than just nomenclature. It's more than just saying, you know what, if you don't make them illegal, then there's no longer any crimes, right? Like, because no crime is being committed because nothing is happening that's illegal, because it's allowed to do all these things. But then you can help. You can actually help people. Meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
See,
It comes from a very judgmental place. Go ahead, Rashid.
Yeah.
It's very judgmental, and it right away, a person who would be addicted to a kind of whatever drug it is, and the automatic perspective or opinion of these people in these situations, it's already a negative connotation. Stay away from them, like they'll mug you, they'll stab you, whatever it is.
Well, I know, and they're weak, like, because they succumb, like.
Well, I mean, here's a part of the problem regarding this whole thing, where it's still criminalized to do certain drugs or whatever it is. For example, here in Vancouver, but then you have East Hastings, which is basically the haven neighborhood for drug use, and they have safe injection sites and all that kind of stuff, and it's a fully functioning society within itself, within a city. But because people in these type of situations, like, they're basically living in like internment camps, it feels like, when you go to that area of Vancouver, and their own society develops, and they can get whatever they want. They have their pushers within the community type of thing. But one of the biggest problems is, for a very long time, the city has not decided, or they haven't put in effective programs in how to help people effectively. So you have the safe injection sites, but there's really no programs that are really fully set up for the purpose of rehab or any type of counseling services. Or if they have it, like, I'm not saying it's not fully there, but the problem is that it's not really well enforced to help people improve themselves and get off of whatever drug that they're on. But right now, there's actually a city council election happening right now. It just happened 2 days ago. And there was a couple of people, I think, I can't remember any specific names, but there are a couple of people that wanted to develop actual proper programs for like rehab purposes to help people get off the drugs and go back into like greater society and get jobs and all that kind of stuff. Because I mean, if you look up the pictures of Hastings, it's a huge tent city. Like, and it's a huge part of the city that could be used for like redevelopment and like revitalization and all that kind of stuff. And people call it gentrification, but yeah, I mean, so it's allowed to happen in a sense, but it's not supposed to happen. But at the same time, nothing's being done to help people when they in the help that they actually truly need. And part of the problem too is that a lot of the social workers who go down there, like, they're recognized, they know who they are because they're the same people going in all the time, and you never know, it can kick off at any point. It's like social workers have been attacked and stuff like that because certain people don't want them there, even though they're trying to help. It's problematic.
Season 3 or season 4 of The Wire tackled a lot of this subject with New Amsterdam, where like in the show they gave a block of Baltimore to like do whatever you want, including council social workers. You guys also set up here and put out safety programs so that if anyone does want to convert, they can always, it's accessible. And there was a big brouhaha in the show, like City Hall gets involved, the media gets involved in all of this. It's really interesting, though, combining what Waseem said earlier and what Rashed just said right now. Individually, it feels like the culture as individuals, we're becoming more progressive and we're becoming less judgmental regarding addiction and drugs. But on an institutional level, the funding has completely dried up for core services. Forget, these are kind of fringe / hippie services that are still new age and progressive. They're still not even mainstream. So like mainstream services in Toronto, last time I was there, a couple of the mental institutions, or I don't know the like PC way of saying this stuff anymore, but they were like literally just overnight sort of, they were closed and the people were just thrown on the streets. Like literally like, we don't know, it's your problem now.
Well, that's what caused the problem here in Vancouver.
And so it's really weird. On an individual level, we're gaining more understanding, yet on an institutional level, even though there's plenty of budgets going around, when Ukraine needs money, we have like the US throws $750 million just randomly, but for its own many soldiers and many just ordinary citizens, they just don't seem to have any institutional focus on it.
Well, American soldiers, how many of them, like we keep on hearing about PTSD with American soldiers and how many different tours they do in Iraq or whatever it is. And, but even still, it goes back to Vietnam. And they're like, yeah, welcome home. And they're set to their own devices. There was no counseling services for them. Like you basically sent these people to go over there and fight a war that it was, I mean, Vietnam especially was a propaganda war. And welcome home. And now this guy is completely messed up in the head because of things that they saw and experienced and felt and all that kind of stuff. And there's no support. I mean, how can you do that?
That's what really struck me as odd in the US, whenever I'm in the US, is that all day long you guys talk about the soldiers and we thank you for your service and we support our troops. But you guys, I think Americans have a saying, money talks, bullshit walks. Like there's a lot of BS going around, but the money, because the money is there. Your budget is telling me that we've put $100 million into armed services, but it's not going into any of the actual soldiers' pockets, or it's not going into the services for soldiers.
You know why? Because the flyover before NFL games is
no, man, no, don't everyone let's not laugh at each other and understand. Like, let's understand how these budgets work and who they go to, right?
I'll tell you how part of how this budget works. So, they never used to do the flyover before NFL games in the United States. Before I think it was 2005, and then the Department of Defense is like, we want a whole bunch of money we want to spend a whole bunch of money so you guys can do these flyovers or allow these flyovers over NFL games because we want to show support for our troops.
Well, no. And look, man, it's really simpler than that.
It was a sponsorship
Who makes
program.
all the weapons? Who makes everything? Who makes everything? Right? So like there's the private companies, like even the Department of Defense, like contracts private companies to give it weapons, give it guns, give it services, give it things.
Many of which are produced in the countries that they attack.
I mean, no, even in the where I don't
the irony of it all.
I don't even know where the gun factories are. But they make everything from the smallest pistol to the largest nuclear weapon. They make all this stuff together. And so every time you see funding, and I mean, I've even heard this. Sometimes the Department of Defense in the States will be like, yeah, we don't need that much. And it'll be like, no, man, no, you do. Like, because like, you do. And why? Because the person saying that you do is the politician that's homies with the lobby of the military industrial complex. And and you don't even know their names. You barely know the companies that make the guns and the weapons. Like, you barely know their companies. This is the best industrial complex there is, because you have no idea who's in charge.
Funny story. I actually, when I worked at a golf club many moons ago back in Toronto, one of the guys that I worked with, his father owned a rubber factory in Toronto that made rubber specifically for the American military. Just rubber.
It's like a one client job, right? Like if you have that, you're like, oh, sweet, money in the bank, easy peasy. And so every time you see like a billion or a million or a trillion going to anywhere when it comes to military aid, you know that's a payday. There's no that's a payday to the industrial complex, because because once there's peace in the world, guess what happens to military industrial complexes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happens when you have no more conflict?
Your factories shut down and all those people lose their jobs. I mean, like, like the irony in this entire situation gets like even more comical as you fully dissect it.
So I'm actually down with the like industrial complex at work. It's cool, but then I'm like very focused on is the politicians don't insult my intelligence and tell me you're doing this for the troops when you're doing it for yourself. If you want to do it for the troops, do it for the troops. Like, don't. All I'm saying is don't insult my intelligence. We know what's going on. We've had a 2-minute breakdown of everything. This is what's going on. Just tell me that it is. Be honest about it.
But for PTSD, just by the way, if you really did care too, there's a lot of promising research on like psychedelic therapies, right? Like you use psychedelics to help, whether it be LSD, whether it be psilocybin that's in mushrooms, and magic mushrooms, whatever you do to kind of like help people overcome their PTSD. Very effective, very promising research. Actually, in Canada, we're like in the process of like this totally being like cool. Because you know how big mushroom works, right? Because now you got the mushroom industrial complex not gonna be working. It's like they're trying to like make it, and because like it's got where that goes, and so there's things are changing on that front, but like and just to avoid being negative, but also to be realistic, that like. It's the more virtue rhetoric that is used, the more like virtuous rhetoric that is used, the more you're shamed for not agreeing with that viewpoint, the more, which brings us to our topic today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Third Culture Convos.
This sounded like the intro to a Kulthum song that took about 20 minutes to get to the song.
We like
this one, not because I think big news in this past week. Well, I mean, this went viral on the waves. I think you've seen it, but it's been happening. Like, it's not the first time it's happened. It happens a lot. Environmental activists go to very famous, rich paintings in museums. People are walking around enjoying the paintings. Everybody's like walking around like enjoying art or whatever. And then they vandalize the painting, or try to vandalize the painting by throwing some paint onto the wall, glue their hands onto the wall so that they can't be moved, and then begin to shame everybody there for like that. Some people don't have energy, some people don't have soup, some people, because they threw soup. I think it was soup. So,
it was soup on the Van Gogh painting of
on Van Gogh's like
flowers.
Sunflowers, and saying like this is the end and all this stuff, and then they go and they try to move them quite comfortably, but they're glued on, and so that let's get some takes. Does that grind gears? Are we like forget the environment? What are these people talking about? Let it burn. What's the word?
So okay, listen. So I can understand once. Okay. When you're being an activist, how do you really, really gain attention to what the hell you're trying to do? It's you have to be outlandish, and you have to like do something. There has to be a big spark, whatever it is. So yeah, you're gonna walk into an art gallery, take tomato soup, and throw it on a bunch of paintings, because that's gonna get people. What's gonna happen? All the phones are gonna come up. People are gonna start recording this. It's gonna go up on YouTube. It's gonna go on people's TikToks and all that kind of stuff. Then what? Well, in that case, then it's like, well, who are these people? Are they a part of a group or not? What's their whole deal type of thing? And I mean, shock and awe. It's all about shock and awe and trying to get some kind of interest in what you're actually trying to do. Now, Do I think in the end it's really effective? Fuck no. Like it's stupid. Like it's
much
fucking...
like the real Operation Shock and Awe, it is
right.
In the long term, it doesn't work.
Yeah. But I'm more curious about like, how do these people pay their bills? Like what do they do to get money to like feed themselves or pay rent or pay for their internet? Just like, you know, simple basic things. That's what I want to know.
They use their iPhone that their parents bought them.
Their iPhone cooks for them.
Like they're full of shit, man. Like you don't usually see like an 80-year-old doing this type of shit, right? Like you'll see they'll be like 15 and they'll do it, right? And they'll be like there's a real trend of like shaming, like especially with the environment and stuff. Like it's doing this because you won't do it, and so I'm proving my virtue. I'm proving my commitment to the cause by, you know, taking the leap. It's a lot. I feel like it's a lot like hazing in like universities and like colleges when they like Frosh Week and they like haze people so that they can be part of the group. And it's also a like, I find it's like a stupid thing to do to people.
I feel it's closer to a gang initiation than a hazing Frosh Week. It's closer to like you're in our gang now because you did this act. You got the juice, yo.
You get the cred, right? Like you get the tattoo using
sunflower or something.
Using ethically sourced ink.
I just don't get this obnoxious activism. I don't get, like, it's almost fascist the way they're approaching it. They're almost like the mental motivation is almost the same as sort of fascist, where like my way or the highway. What I believe is the absolute truth, and you have to start like, why can't you beat me with information then? Why can't you beat me with a nice movie or something? I don't get what you're doing by trying to destroy. There was another, like, along the lines of this, bunch of people had stopped on the highway and like blocked the highway. And one of the videos is a guy like shouting at one of the activists or protesters. And he's saying, listen, I'm on probation and I need to get to my job. If I'm late for my job, they're going to lock me up. My entire life that I've tried for the last 1 year to rebuild is going to go because you won't let me get to my job. And he's begging this person, please get out of the way. My life is on the line. And the person will not listen because they're busy thinking about climate change. They're busy thinking about us all. So we can forget about the one. You know, the philosophical question, do you save one person or 1,000 or whatever?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At least it was documented. So he can go to his parole officer and say, dude, this is me. Like, come on. Like, I was stuck literally in traffic.
That shit's not gonna fly, man. These poor people, like, what humanity? Like the humanity, that doesn't fly. It's that is where as a history, I think probably had a history of this type of shit where people use virtue as a weapon against like their own virtue. So like, you know, growing up in Saudi with the religious police, like that's literally the game, right? Like, I'm so virtuous, I'm gonna kick your ass, right? Like, like I'm so virtuous, I'm gonna beat it into you. And it's crazy because it doesn't, like, there's almost no true critical self-reflection. Like, and like, to me, I love a person that puts their money where their mouth is, and who like, if you're like, you know what, I'm actually really concerned about this, and so I'm going to take the steps that I need to take in order to, you know, minimize my harm to the planet or to my soul or to whatever. And a lot of the actions that you have to do, like, you will never be done, right? Like, your goal at that point, like, especially with the environment, like, if you want, like, where do you shop? You shop at a supermarket. Like, you have to abstain from supermarket shopping because there's no way around like the fact that, like, okay, like, if you really want to do it, then you have to abstain. Like, but putting pressure on, like, or not putting pressure, because I don't think it's any fucking pressure, right? Like, I don't think that any of the food producers or even in the industrial food producers are looking at this and like, maybe we should change our ways. Like, you know what? Fuck, now they're ruining Van Gogh? Shit. Like, I don't think they're doing that. And so I think that like if you really were, I'd be like, okay, start sewing your own clothes, go get yourself a sheep, go find yourself a little piece of land, good luck affording it, and go find yourself a little piece of land,
Live off the grid.
and go live off the grid, and like do it because I'm with you. I that's a romantic idea. I'm down. That's a lovely idea, and like, and if you want to create radical change, then be radical, and that is a little bit radical. But like, like yelling at me because I'm at the supermarket, right? Or it's like even when they stand outside of abortion clinics, right? And they yell at ladies that want to go get like the people that want to go get abortion, and then they virtue. So whenever you're using virtue to shoot at me, that's when I'm just like, get the fuck out of my face. Like I don't need this shit from you.
Well, that whole thing about beating virtue into you, like the virtue police in Saudi, it reminds me of a phrase from childhood. If you're not going to listen, you're going to feel.
Well, by the way, with the Matawa, you had mentioned that there's zero critical self-reflection. And it's actually the opposite. It's there's zero critical self-reflection and there's nothing but preaching, and I've got my ticket booked to heaven, so I can do anything I want, and I can speak to you in any way I want, and I can make you feel any way I want, because my ticket, I am the most religious person you know, or I know, or that even God knows. So my ticket is booked. I can do what I want. It's you guys that are all kafirs and gonna go into the bad place. My ticket is good place.
Because my job right now as an Mtawa person is that I am here to make sure that you're virtuous. I am doing the deed of God.
Because you can't do it on your own. Like you clearly won't be. You can't do it on your own. And so, and I mean, this especially with something like environmental activism. Environmental, like, I mean, I think I've kind of seen it because even when I was going to school, 20 years ago. It's all generally like the rhetoric around environmental activism has been like Armageddon. So like there's Armageddon coming, it's over, it's too late, it's always going to be too late, it's all over, this is the worst time in history, we might as well just die. And you like even having children is you are complicit in your silence, right? Like even in I abstain. I mean, it could be that the environment's like all going to hell, but it also couldn't. I'm not sure. I don't know much, so I'm just going to abstain. Your silence is violence, right? These crazy terms, like it's nuts. It's like, so, and then that's more virtue. Like, because I'm speaking loudly and yelling and you're not, that's another reason why I'm better than you. That's another reason why I'm better than you. And one of the biggest, religiously, one of the biggest sins is pride, right? Pride is like the thing, and pride is sneaky, right? Like that's why it's such a big sin, right? Because it's sneaky, because you don't know how it's like you will turn and see that you are sitting in pride. And even in those positions, I think that's like we need a bit of maybe a little bit of Orthodox religion.
Speaking of pride, you guys can correct me. Wasn't pride the reason like the fall from grace happened?
Oh yeah,
Iblis' sin was pride,
like
right?
I'm not, like it's in
I'm not bowing to you.
Islamically, yes. Iblis is like
no. It was.
This guy's made out of clay, man.
I'm not gonna bow to Adam when you made me out of something greater than him.
Yeah, pride though. Like the one,
it's all about pride.
Not gluttony.
It's not the beginning.
It's
the original rupture. But that it's funny. I'm dancing around this idea of religion because that's what a lot of this environmental, I think, this activism, this type of activism. I mean, it's a religion for the religiousless. So like they're with the sort of probably in the most recently traditional religion, the way it is has kind of like broken down. Like there's more agnostics than ever before, there's more atheists than ever before, there's more questioning than ever before, and so there's more of that. And I mean, even in holding religious views, there is a virtue, there's virtue signaling from both sides, right? Like on this one, right? Like an atheist is really proud that they've like become an atheist, right? And a religious person is really proud that they believe in God.
I'm old school. I'm modernity. Last week's episode. I'm old school. I'm proud of old school, and I'm modernity, yo.
Yeah, it's like both sides of the same coin. Everybody, and I would say probably everybody needs a little bit of what the other guys got. Right, I think maybe that's probably the most realistic thing I think to say, or like honest thing to say, is that when you're busy virtue signaling, you can't listen. Like you can't let something in because I'm sending out my positive like virtues. And when you're younger, that's probably what gets me the most, because the guys are always like super young, and so they don't like, literally it's like hypocrisy. You don't know shit. You don't know shit. Like it's not just about wearing a bunch of like buttons on your damn jacket that makes you like you know where aluminum comes from? Do you know where these there are things that unfortunately we will be complicit with in society. And I'm like, we were just talking about the military and the spending of the weapons and the money going and all that stuff. And like, you know, I'm against that. Like I'm never down with weapons, but sometimes there's a need for weapons. So is it it's like the abolish the police stuff, like saying you want to abolish the police, right? Because like that's a big like left statement, right? Like I want to abolish the police. And then like, but what do you do if you have some trouble? Like, aren't you going to want to call the police then? Right, like there'll be a time. It's similar to when you're what belief in God is preparing you to die, so that like when you die you have something to like hold on. Like when you're dying, you have like, okay, a meaning to your life, a purpose. I did it and this, and so you can die in peace instead of like rejecting it all and then getting to the not that atheists die miserably, but because everybody dies the way that they die, but some people are prepared for death, and because they spend their life being prepared, and some people aren't. And I think like I forgot.
No, I think even people, for example, I mean, might going off on a quick tangent, but I think even people who don't believe in God and are self-admitted atheists and everything like that, they come to terms with it in their own way, to be like, well, whatever the religious beliefs of post-life is, they've grown to accept the fact that I'm just going to pass away and wither away into the land, and that's it. And whatever happens to my quote unquote soul, the whole question about a soul too is religious based anyway. So I just feel it's like, well, that's it. I'm done. Thanks for the good life. Remember me. Love you. Bye.
With these obnoxious activists, Waseem, you're right. They're super young. They really haven't had experience. They haven't been around the world. Forget like their country or any, like, I don't know how well traveled or experienced or engaged they are. I really doubt it. And the reason that becomes really important is because within this virtual signaling, you're not giving me any practical solutions. The world is about to end in 50 years. What can I do on a daily basis? Have you seen my water bill? I can't afford to pay it. I don't use water as it is. I can't afford to use my water. What do you want from me? I don't have a carbon footprint. I wish I had a carbon footprint. Like, I'm so broke, like I owe carbon footprint taxes. Like, what do you want from me? Why don't you talk to these superstars that we hear about all the time? I think 3 weeks ago, there was in the news that like Steven Spielberg, his private jet had flown around the world like 75 times, the equivalent of like 75 times, or like ex superstars private plane. Taylor Swift rents out her private plane, and that takes 3 trips a weekend or something. DiCaprio has he said in a press conference, one of the, I think an Irish journalist or somebody asked him, like, you talk about all this like climate change activism, but you fly private. And his response was, no, but I try and fly commercial whenever it's possible. Like, that's not really a good enough answer, right? Like, What do you want from average Joe who can't afford anything right now versus the people who are actually doing the damage and flying left, right, and center, not flying. Just everything in their lifestyle is about consumption, right? So like, what can I do? So in all of this obnoxious activism, I agree with your message. I don't agree with your delivery of the message. I do agree with what you're saying that, yo, the world is over. We need to figure out something. But tell me that something. We've agreed. We agreed even before you did your shenanigans. We agreed on the point.
Yeah, but people don't care. They just don't care enough. If only we cared a little bit more, then it would be better.
You know what reminds me of caring about these situations? It reminds me of thoughts and prayers.
Oh yeah, it's the same. It's the same. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
Thoughts and prayers.
Like people don't care, and usually and this is probably what annoys me about this particular group of these groups of people, is that like when you come with the nuance, right? Okay, so you go, all right, we got like 50 million people, 100 million people, and they need food, right? So like as an example, so industrial farming is a really good way to feed 100 million, 200 million, 300 million people. Yeah, the food's not great, but there's food in their bellies, right? Like there's food in their bellies, and it's better than starvation. Okay, it's better than starvation. Now, like I've heard this argument about food, like so, like grass fed and free range and all that stuff. That's like it's better. It's like the food's more nutritious, it's more ethical, yada 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 yada. It's more sustainable. But doesn't produce the same, like for hundreds of millions. It could produce for a small community, a small area. But the numbers that we got dealing with here, you can't just be like, okay, so there's something for those things. And that nuance, that conversation, when it's met with a militaristic attitude, right? Like your silence is violence type of thing, then you're not in a constructed, like, okay, let's deal. Because and what it does create, I think it creates the argument that we end up debating whether like climate change is real or not, or whether the environmental degradation is real or not, and not maybe the extent of it, maybe how to like deal with it. But it creates a conversation where like, you're like, no, this is not happening. You're just a vandal. Like you're just vandalizing. And even though that person, if approached in a way that isn't, I'm yelling at you because you're so evil, and you're violent, and you're complicit in the fact that you don't even know, makes it even worse. And let me, in my 2 years of adult experience, of adolescent experience, teach you something, young man. And so the lack of nuance, the lack of like this, the lack of humility to actually enter, like, okay, I just got here. Let me see what I could, like, how this works. What's going on over here? Not listening to this podcast, like all the type of stuff. Like young people are really easy to be kind of co-opted on these types of like movies, especially using virtue. And especially since the people that are usually the butt or the other end of who they're blaming are like, like even do it like the older generation, they just fucked it all up for all of us. It was all fine, but then they fucked it up, and now we have to deal with the consequences of that.
How many times have you seen movies? I mean, I can't remember a specific movie, but situations where like this really anarchist type of obnoxious activist is going up against some major corporation for whatever reason, and ends up happening, oh, their father is the president or the CEO of that corporation. Oh my God. Like, imagine the conversation at that dinner table.
that's Spider-Man. Like Osborn, the Osborns.
Mythic Quest did this kind of thing. A show I just watched, they did this kind of thing where the son is the like enemy of the father, and dung dung dung.
Yeah.
It's crazy. See, the thing is, when I look at a lot of this, as MJ has coined it, obnoxious activism, then I look back in history and I look at real activism. One group comes to mind automatically are the Black Panthers. And it's just like, these people were like freaking hardcore. Like they actually they were very violent at times. Yes, we know that happened and everything. But I mean, like they identified the problem. They had their ways of bringing attention to the problem, and they actually had their solutions to the problem. and it was within this wide world of civil rights, obviously within the United States. But I mean, like, I look back at some of those type of groups, and I look at some of the groups today that are throwing tomato soup at Van Gogh paintings, and I'm like, really? Like, come on, man.
Well,
there's a huge difference here between
you know that painting
type of activism.
But that painting, I don't know if you guys know this, but it's like all those paintings are like covered in glass because like the first person did it, it fucked up the painting, and they were like, you know what? We're just gonna put glass.
We need to protect these things.
You need to protect these things, and so it doesn't like actually cause any damage. It's just like
so the gallery's like, we cleaned it up and it was back on the floor 6 hours later. Haha, jokes on you. Like
there's one theory on the internet, Reddit, that was saying that the activists know that it's covered under glass. They still do it just for the attention. Rashed, what you were mentioning at the top, attention, that they just want the public to take out their phones and viral moment. So like I don't know, because you can't be that dumb that you didn't know this much. Like they must have known it's covered.
Of course
under
you
glass.
can, man. Of course you can. Of course
but
you can.
Like looking at their pictures, like it's like nothing.
Of course you can.
Impossible.
Of course you can. Like I mean, the things, the hypocrisy is like it's swimming in it. Like it's like what. Like I can't handle it. Like even when there's sometimes I ride my bicycle on the sidewalk, right? And like it's because I gotta make a turn.
I hate you people.
Fuck off! None of your fucking
business.
Try to
walk here, man.
Look up then.
Jeez, I'm looking forward. I can't see you for coming from behind me. Like
look up, man. Like there are people. I am
looking up. Like I'm looking forward.
But you
expect someone to freaking.
But you know why I'm riding it
from the ass on a bike.
Why am I riding it on the sidewalk? Because the fucking road's unsafe. I want to be on like a bike lane that's like raised and safe, just like you walking with your feet. like I want that, right? I want to be part of your world. But it's not safe.
So ditch the bike then.
Well, no. So like there's a bigger problem. Yeah, ditch the bike
and walk.
So there's take my car, asshole.
No, walk.
Like my diesel engine.
If you're taking a bike, you have enough time to. It's within distance to walk too. Anyhow, continue.
Well, communities aren't built like that right now in the city, and that's exactly what I mean. I hope people are paying attention. So like to your own municipal elections, if you live in a place that has municipal elections, the people usually the like federal elections get like, or the in Canada the federal elections, but the president elections get the most like people going. But the thing that actually affects your day-to-day life more is like what goes on in like your cities and like your city council and your mayor. And so with these types of issues, they kind of rise up there. And the thing that hurts is that, at least in Toronto, like this is happening now in Toronto, the whole like, I feel like there's this, there's like an establishment that goes for like keep property taxes low. And so that only serves like a subset of like landowners in the, or like, property owners in the city. And that is like the only issue that like matters when it comes to the election, while like the livability, the affordability, of the city, the community feel of different parts of the city are not like, don't hold as high of a priority amongst people. And then that's why you'll get a situation. I mean, like there's a lot of like e-bikes. At least it's not an e-bike. I don't have an e-bike on the side of the road, but I do hold my safety. And I guess you're safe. I'm paying attention. I can see you there. It's not like I'm walking down in a fair, but it's exactly why I'm riding, like why I'm riding on the sidewalk to get to my door, because the road is like made for the cars, those gas guzzling, environmentally unfriendly cars. Or the street cars with those little holes, or even if it's bricks. You know how many times I've fallen because of this shit? This didn't happen in Amsterdam. It doesn't happen in Amsterdam. They got that shit taken care of. They take care of their bike people. They take care of their walkers. They take care of their environment.
I have a feeling this Van Gogh painting was in Amsterdam, by the way.
Yeah, well. Well,
They might not have the brakes on the road because they have the protesters in the museum.
No lacking of
Pick
virtue.
your poison.
They're
No
not out
liking.
there. They're not out there hacking away at the road with their picks.
Yeah.
Not yet. That would
Not yet.
require hard work.
Yeah.
That would require hard work.
Too much work. Physical labor,
Yeah.
please.
By the
Well,
way,
yeah.
with these,
Actually do something about it.
With these people who threw the soup or whatever on the painting, the Van Gogh, they were like protesting oil, like something to do with like
because it was the
based
oil-based painting.
So why aren't you going to ExxonMobil CEO's house or going to the boardroom or finding the board? Like, I don't understand what the museum people in the museum.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like it's a stretch with the oil
connection
painting.
They have,
Yeah. It's a bit of a stretch. No, like it's an oil
industry, but oil painting. This
What
is
about-
number one, very superficial, like grade one.
You know what I'll
go
say?
to
I
the
think-
oil aisle. like, is it also dressings? Like are dressings culpable too?
I think
All
there's
those salad
salad things
dressing.
going on at the same
Can
time.
I throw
because
coconut oil as well, like sesame oil? Like, are those like
Oh,
natural
coconut oil.
oils?
You can definitely
They're good.
shoot palm oil.
They're good.
But like
Coconut
you
oil
shoot
is
palm oil.
tasty. I think there's two different things going on. I think you have there are the higher ups of like some of the more organized activist groups. They probably do contact the companies and be like, let's talk about stuff. And they're probably ignored, or they do maybe every so often they give them lip service, whatever it is. And then there's like the minions. And I think these people are like the minions. It's like, go do some stupid shit so we can talk about things in the boardroom.
Why can't they learn from like the GameStop people? Like, why not try and buy enough stock if you're like, these people come from sort of decent background, like take over, like try something Hollywood style, like hostile takeover, because we bought this amount of shares and we now have a board member. Like, we have enough shares to put a board person on the
Elon
thing.
Musk.
You know why?
Elon Musk.
It's because
Elon Musk.
they don't have
The long
they don't have
con, you know,
it's because they don't have access to their estate yet. That's why. They're not old enough. The money hasn't matured yet.
The
It hasn't come to
fund, they have
term.
to get to
The trust
25
fund is still, you got to get to
access.
25, 26 for that trust fund to be able to be accessed.
I think
with Britney conservatorship. sorry, I had to get that one out.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the problem with environmental activism, even though like I think like a lot of the environmental activist movement has rebranded itself a bunch of times, right? So like it was global warming, and then that was a horrible name, and like because it led to an argument. You're like, I don't want to talk about. Yeah, it's just a bad move. And then so climate change is okay, it's better. And I think like you can talk about the bits and pieces of the problem, and the problem is almost like an easier thing to talk about. But the solution and because like the problem with environmental activism is that it's always like shrouded in like this sort of doomsday, like this doomsday Armageddon. It's the end. We probably need to kill half the planet type of thing, which is which is exactly. It's actually like Thanos is like Thanos from the Avengers is that. He's like, look, there's no, he's like the mythical idea of the only way to save them is to regretfully remove half of them and remove
cut costs.
And usually like that type of rhetoric and people I think that like share that type of rhetoric I'd like to hope that they don't really understand what they're saying, in the sense that like, you know what you're calling for, man. Like, that's very like not.
Which is
like,
why it said fascist. That's why it said there's
like, do you
weird,
understand like what you're saying
in
here?
them. Like,
like you're saying, okay, so like which group do you want to start with? Like literally, that's okay. Fine, let's play this game. Who do you want to? Who first?
Who's getting selected? Like why? Like
Like do you want to do like what? Like rich white guys first? Like you want to start there, or like or do you want to go on the other end? Like what group do you want to hit?
The historical trend. The historical favorites.
Who do you want? Like let's start.
The usual suspects.
Right, and so it's like I feel like the nuance is divorced because it's so easy to like be like, oh, I'm so great because I care about such an obvious problem, and I'm so great and prideful because of that. and you're not actually dealing with the issue, and not actually dealing with, I think, the crux of the one of sometimes the main problem is that you do actually have a problem. Like that's what, like, in talking about obnoxious activism, we ignore the point of the activism, which is an actual like problem, which we can argue about the extent of the problem, and we can argue about what needs to be done to fix the problem. Right, like we can talk about and why this problem like exists. So like they're talking about activism. There are like farmers across the world have been protesting a lot over the last few years because like sort of big corporate like agendas in farming are like fucking up farmers, because they're blaming farmers for like, you know, methane and for global warming and for like the environment. So they're saying like you guys got to cut your like stock, like, so like half of your cows, like they're doing the same thing. So we just have too many cows, right? So you're gonna have to like pick a bunch of cows and just get rid of them, and like about half, and then the farmers will be like, but what are we gonna eat then? And like, where do you want the milk to come from? Like, and where do you want all this? Like, what are people gonna actually do if we cut our crop? And like, this is like across the board. Like, these are farmers all over the world, and this doesn't come on mainstream media. Like, this doesn't come on the news. This doesn't show up. All of these protests, because I feel like, and that's a real problem for climate activism, because okay, you could maybe cows do contribute to greenhouse gases. They don't. What to do? What are some of the things we can do? What can we instead of trying to solve that problem? It's like, okay, cut them out. But the people that, like, instead of having the debate about that, we're having the debate about how like dumb the action is, like how stupid people could be, right? Instead of actually being constructive about like what it is that is an actual problem that, you know, if you care about the future of the like human race and our survival and how like nice life can be and all that type of stuff for people that are advantaged and disadvantaged, like in all in their own ways, then like what you're actually doing is making us not have this discussion. Like I think like we're not actually having these discussions. Like, you know how hard it is to segue from these fucking idiots to like, now can we have a serious conversation about like how we want to deal with like, you know, the extent of climate change and
science
like,
and shit.
Yeah,
Science
yeah.
and shit.
You got to move at the speed of science to get to these things.
My question is,
we can just watch a whole bunch of David Attenborough documentaries as well.
That's my question, is these activist people, what are they doing all day? Don't they at some point, doesn't the light bulb turn on and they're like, okay, I need to work on the actual solution now? Like, you can only like talk about the problem for so long, because I know what happens.
No,
right?
but
they like
you don't want them to work on the
stick. Like 70 to every person they bump into, they repeat the shtick for like the pitch changes from 30 seconds to 3 minutes to 3 hours. That can change, but it's the same shtick over and over, right? Like flogging a dead horse. And like, do they just repeat the same like piece of content 75 times across the day and then wake up the next day and do that again? Like, don't they wake up on the third day and say, okay, I've talked about it for a couple of days and I have some ideas for how to solve it?
I think they need to start teaming up with the scientists. They need to start teaming up with these scientist groups that go out and take readings of whatever they're reading and to come up with have actual numbers and data to be like, okay, so we know that, for example, the ice up in the north in like the Arctic, and we know that it's melting at a greater rate than it ever has before, which means the oceans are they're gonna go up and it's gonna flood coastal cities like the one that I live in currently. But like I know what you mean. There are different ways to become more effective in your activism, and just going out there and just messing shit up doesn't really help unless you have actual solutions, unless you have actual information behind how we can fix the problem. But I think that would be one of their best first steps. Get involved with scientific groups that are actually looking at the problem.
repeating the problem. There's
Put
one other
together a PowerPoint presentation.
Repeating the problem only works when it's a first generation like communication thing, right? So like the global warming generation, they get to repeat and repeat and repeat this shtick over and over because they're trying to educate and aware at the same time. But we've now had 20, 30, 40 years of that education awareness process. Are we not moving? Are you guys, the activists, not moving towards? And they will argue no, but people are still not educated and still unaware. That's what they'll say. And so like, but I still think like you can still spend 25% or 50% of your day doing the like talking bit and 50% of the day teaming up with a scientist or trying to figure out a solution. I don't think they could keep up with the science, and I don't think scientists could keep up with them, if you understand what I mean.
I think, but also like you can teaming up with a scientist. Okay, for one problem. So there's a bunch of crazy ass scientists too.
No, it's
like
true.
Just because you're a scientist, like I can find a crazy one. Number two, is that like you gotta have something to contribute. I'm not just like I don't just need like numbers and voices and stuff. You got to contribute something. And so I feel like when you work on when you like work on a set of skills, work on how you can contribute so that you can create a positive impact in this space. That makes like.
And it doesn't have to be this crazy American version of a mega corporation. Your idea can just be literally collecting the trash from one street. At least you're doing more than me or the next person. Like when you go and preach to somebody that, the planet's dying because of you, the other person can say, what do you do? And you're like, yeah, well, I've organized this, this, and this. Like, even if it's just that, at least it's a start. Something, a wise man often tells me something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And done is better than perfect.
Yeah. I think like I'm not giving them advice because I don't think anybody like, especially when you have pride, like you're too busy being better than me that I just don't like I got nothing to say. Like, you know what, I'm just gonna try really hard to be like as good as you. That's what I'm gonna do. Like I'm gonna do my best to like be as good as you. Like I want to work hard on me.
So are we targeting the AGO or the ROM guys?
Oh, well, the art galleries. Okay, well, this is another thing. We would get so fucked because like you know how like they glued their hands on the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that like like.
I just want to know what kind of glue they use. Like, was it actual really good glue,
museum,
or
they're stopping us? We're not getting anywhere near a painting.
Man, security like follows.
Together?
Yeah.
Like, no.
There was a detailed. Someone on Reddit had answered your question, Rashed, about the type of glue they use because
was it Gorilla Glue?
No. It's some weird special type of homemade glue because the second girl or the second activist, her their hand was not gluing properly, like it didn't stay.
Yeah, it looked like it's like crazy glue. I was like
the Elmer glue at home.
In the end, they should have just used silly putty. Really, I mean that's also, where you're getting at that point.
But you know, this is also what I didn't understand. I didn't understand the glue on the hand part, because like if my job now I'm security, and my job is to remove you from here, okay? Like I'm gonna remove you. I'm gonna do it nicely in the beginning, but you decided to glue your hand on the wall. And so because you decided to glue your hand on the wall, I'm gonna have to help get your hand off the wall. And that's gonna hurt you, not me. Like it's like
and
it's
I'm
only
gonna have to touch you. I'm gonna have to touch you, and then you're gonna claim abuse.
Like, well, I mean, we can put the camera and I'm gonna grab your other hand and I'm gonna pull and it's gonna hurt. And like, I mean, I guess it's all in service of the cause. And then the battle scar, like I said, like I got my sustainable link tattoo. I got my sustainable link tattoo. Like I got it.
This is your badge. This is your badge from the front lines right here, man.
Yeah.
I got a glue scar on my palm.
You know, remember that? Remember Jackass?
Yeah.
It's the same.
I hated Jackass.
It's the same. Like it's the same thing.
It really, honestly, you've actually hit the thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically if Jackass had a revival, this would be it. Like, they would just add a little political, sort of social political twist to it.
Like Sheen.
Sheen, they would just add that little, like, yo, we're gonna do the same jackassery, but we need to like do it for a cause, guys. We can't just do it like that anymore. It's not over.
People,
people
don't just like us being jackasses anymore. Now
you know who does that? You know who does that? Impractical Jokers, because their cause is to embarrass the shit out of the friend who's in the limelight in the moment for whatever prank that they're doing.
Yeah. But theirs is just fun though. There's no.
It's fun.
Like
it does get a bit awkward at times, but it's good.
Fun awkward. Yeah.
Awkward.
On that word, thanks guys. Have a good week and.
Keep it awkward.